One of the most annoying things in oil painting is mixing your paints together to get the right perfect colour and just ending up with a dull, horrible brown instead. This used to happen to me all the time, but now after years of painting, I can now share with you the main reasons why this happens. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the most common reasons, and then I'm going to give you some useful tips on how to avoid them. I'm also going to include a secret tip, which most people actually won't talk about, and I already discovered myself after a good few years of learning to paint. These are very important tips and can make a big difference in your oil painting, so I highly recommend that you watch all the way to the end. Reason 1 is adding complementary colours. Now, adding complementary colours can be part of the normal mixing process, but the problem is if you're adding complementary colours without actually realising that's what you're doing. Complementary colours are added to your paint mixture to sort of bring down the contrast and dim down the colour as well as make it darker. These can be very powerful, so if you use too much, it can be a large step towards making a muddy mix. Reason number 2 is overpowering colours. Now this is quite similar to adding complementary colours, but when you're adding overpowering colours, then what you're doing is you're adding a very strong colour against a weaker colour. Imagine adding some blue to a very light, maybe even whitish colour. The blue is going to completely overpower it. Without realising, your mixture has completely changed colour, and then you've got to continue doing more mixing, which just leaves more chances of it turning muddy brown. The next reason is over mixing your colours. Now, oil paints can look quite lively at first, but as you tend to over mix them to get a mixture of way more different colours in there, then you can sort of start to go along a sequence and then struggle to hone the colour into how you want it. This is very common as a beginner, and it's something I used to do quite often myself. At some point you make a mistake in the mixing process, and the colour, it could be like I said, where you add too much of an overpowering colour, which is quite often the case, and you realise that you've messed up, but then you want to try to get it back to how it was, and what you end up doing is actually over mixing. And you could actually add in some complementary colour as well, and you just have it get duller and duller, and that's how it ends up with a brown, muddy, messy colour. Another way you can end up with muddy colours is with cross-contamination. I'm not talking about anything in the kitchen, I'm literally talking about paints which have accidentally get mixed into each other. And this can happen in various ways. You might get a little bit of one colour on your brush, which is transferred across your palette. And when you go to load it up with your paint, it mixes into it. Similar can happen with your palette knife as well. This is something you've got to be really careful of. And when I go through the tips, I'll show you exactly how to avoid it. Before we get into the tips, I'd just like to know, have you had any of these happen to you? If so, I'd love to hear about it. Just let me know in the comments below. Just to quickly recap, the reasons why you can be getting some brown, muddy colours when mixing paints are over-mixing, adding complementary colours, adding too much of overpowering colours, and cross-contaminating paint on your palette. If you've had any of these happen to you, or if you just want to avoid them happening to you in the first place, then don't worry, because I'm going to take you through some great tips on how to avoid this completely, as well as a special bonus tip I mentioned. But first, I just wanted to let you know about my free beginner's guide, which you can download from the link in the description. This takes you through some of the basics you need when starting oil painting, all in a handy written guide. This is a completely free resource, so if that sounds good to you, then check it out in the description below. Now let's get on to the tips. So tip number 1. Like I said, complementary colours darken your mixture and neutralise some of the colour. Now, a great thing that I recommend is getting yourself a colour wheel. This is a great and handy little tool just to reference whenever you're colour mixing. They're very inexpensive, and it can save you from making a mistake, such as adding a complementary colour by mistake. I'll leave a link to one on Amazon in the description, along with the materials that I use. Now, these are affiliate links, so I would get commission if you purchase these, but to be honest, that's entirely up to you, and you would be supporting the channel, but you don't have to if you don't want. Now, if you do want to neutralize some of the color and darken it a little bit, then just be aware when adding the complementary color that that is what you're doing. It's also a great idea to do this gradually by adding the small amounts of paint as you're mixing. That way you won't add too much of it by mistake and have to try to get back to how it was. This brings me on to my next tip, which is to be careful when using overpowering colours into your colour mixture. Well, when it comes to colour mixing, you can think of colours in this way. Some are more stronger and powerful than others. In some cases, you can add just a small amount of a certain colour and it will completely change the colour of the mixture. This is especially true if your colour is quite light or delicate. So the best way around this is to be very careful when adding certain colours into your mixture. Now, a good example of these colours are reds and blues. And what I'd suggest to do is just to add these in very small amounts. If this makes a big difference, then there's a good chance you're dealing with a strong colour. Then you should just be very careful when adding more into the mixture. Do it in very small increments and nothing really too much in one go. But if you've already overpowered your colour or made it too dark, then this next tip will help. Sometimes, rather than trying to add lighter colours to the mixture to bring it lighter again, then it can work out a lot better to actually do it the other way around. Instead of adding a colour such as white to a darker mixture to lighten it, just have a pile of white and then gradually add the darker mixture to it. You'll find it's quite difficult to actually lighten dark colours in your mixing, and it's a lot easier just to darken the white with your darker colour. This can save you from wasting a lot of paint. Little tips like this can really make a difference when you're mixing colour. To be honest, colour mixing is one of the more difficult aspects of oil painting. But once you've got used to it, it does get a lot easier. Now, before I get into the secret bonus tip, I'd just like to ask if you've enjoyed this video so far, or if you've got any value from it, then I would very much appreciate it if you could like the video and please consider subscribing. This really helps me to grow this channel and allows me to keep creating valuable content like this. I would also greatly appreciate it. Now, the secret tip I mentioned a couple of times is essentially to keep your palette organised. This is something which can be completely overlooked, especially by a beginner artist, but even people that have been painting for years. I know myself, I can sometimes be a bit messy with my palette, but it's something you need to be mindful of and be very careful not to do this. There are various methods to be able to do this, including one which I share in my free beginner's guide in the description. Whichever method you use though, you need to be very careful not to cross-contaminate your paint. A great way of doing this is to make sure you always use a palette knife when mixing your colours. Now, you might see some people on YouTube doing tutorials and paint-alongs just using their brush. I wouldn't recommend this as for a beginner. It's kind of like one of those bad habits which looks good on camera, but in reality you can end up cross-contaminating your paint and it's making a bit of a mess on your palette, and then that can easily be transferred onto your painting as well. So one of the best ways to keep your colours clean and not make them muddy is just to use a palette knife when you're mixing. You always need to make sure you've got some paper towels or a rag close by. After you've mixed one particular colour, you need to make sure you wipe it clean so that doesn't get transferred into the next colour you mix. I also recommend using pipettes to add your medium to your paints. Some people, including myself in the past, have just simply dipped their brush into their medium, but this just actually adds a bit of paint and colour into your medium, which can then grow into your other colours. The simplest and cleanest way is just to use a pipette. Then you just need to make sure that your colours are clearly separated on your palette. And then you shouldn't really have too many issues with this. It's important to make sure you always remember all these reasons and tips. This can make a real difference when it comes to your painting. Just re-watch the video as many times as you need And remember, you can always save it to re-watch it later as well. The best way to remember these tips is to put them into practice. And what better than to do so in this next video.